Robbie Ray returned with a bang. Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Thursday, July 25th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White. And let's talk about Robbie Ray, who made his return to the mound, his Giants debut at the Dodgers. 5 no-hit innings, 1 run allowed, 8 strikeouts, 22 whiffs on 86 pitches, had everything working in this one. And he actually got off to a slow start. First inning, 2 walks, 2 hit by pitches, 2 wild pitches, allowed a run. His next 4 innings of work, 0 hits, 0 walks, 7 strikeouts. Scott, Robbie Ray, 73% rostered. Feels like that needs to be closer to 100.
Oh, yeah, I would say so. And he's one of a few notable pitchers who are coming back from season-long injuries just this week. But I would say the fact that Robbie Ray came back like this against this team is reason to consider him the most promising of that group all of a sudden. We'll see how things go for Clayton Kershaw and Kodai Senga the next 2 days. But, pitchers have had pitchers who we've seen previously come back from season-long injuries this year have struggled by and large. Gavin Williams, Shane Baz, Max Scherzer, Gerrit Cole, again, after looking like he had maybe got back on track. So it's not a sure thing. And the fact that Robbie Ray came back doing this is just, it's hard not to feel like you've already won the lottery with him. And maybe the most notable thing about the performance, okay, there were the no hits, there were all the whiffs. His average fastball velocity was up 2.3 miles per hour from last year. His average slider velocity up 4.8. That's, compared to last year, obviously, but compared to 2021 when he won the Cy Young Award, the velocities were even higher than then. And I don't think he can sustain them. I think, you look at what he was throwing at AAA, it wasn't quite this hard. But if he's anywhere close to those 2021 velocities and he's able to throw strikes consistently, which has been an issue for Robbie Ray throughout his career, but if he's able to do that, then he might just be an ace, because certainly he's been that in the past.
Well, let's talk about one of the names you mentioned in there, and Gerrit Cole, who had another rough outing against the Mets. He allowed 6 runs over 5 2/3 innings, 3 homers allowed in the start. In 2 starts against the Mets this season, 12 earned runs, 7 homers allowed over 9 2/3 innings. And this sucks, Scott, because previous 2 starts before this looked like he was getting back on track, and then obviously has this clunker. Where are you at on Gerrit Cole?
A little confused, to be honest. I had the last 2 starts had looked so good. I had moved him back up to 13th in my starting pitcher rankings. I'm going to drop him to more like 21st now, and I hate zigzagging like that, but it's hard to get a feel for what's going on with Gerrit Cole. Clearly, the slider is at the center of this because he hadn't been throwing it. It's his best pitch in theory. He hadn't been throwing it much this year, 10%. And maybe it's because of how it makes his elbow feel. I don't know exactly. Maybe he feels like he hasn't gotten a feel for it because he hasn't been able to throw it enough with the elbow issue. But he had found success the last couple turns throwing a cutter instead. Wasn't quite as good, but the starts were good. So maybe it was good enough. Then he starts throwing the slider 30% of the time in this start instead of the 10%. It doesn't go well. And so I think he's probably trying to work it back in, and maybe it'll get all the way back. But what will the results look like in between now and then if he's going to feature the slider this much? I don't know. Maybe I don't want him to. But the highest upside outcome is for him to get that slider back. So it's difficult to say what we should expect from Cole moving forward. Next turn is against the Phillies.
Yeah.
I'd be reluctant to start him. I'm not saying he's an absolute sit, but I'd be reluctant to start him.
Let's wrap up with some news items and a big injury. Christian Yelich placed on the IL with lower back inflammation, and season-ending surgery is a possibility. He'll see a spine specialist on Thursday to discuss the next steps, and Yelich was having an amazing season, but this back injury has hampered him over the past couple of years. So hopefully it's not season-ending, but it is a possibility. And Jorge Mateo was placed in the IL with a dislocated left elbow. Connor Norby will be recalled by the Orioles on Thursday. Having a big season in the minors, he's only 10% rostered. Scott, in some of those deeper leagues with the middle infield spot, are you looking to add Connor Norby?
If it's a league so deep that there's never an interesting hitter, okay, Norby becomes interesting by default. He's going to be in a good lineup. I think there's a good chance he plays more than last time we saw him, because how much more do the Orioles need to see from Ramon Arias? Seriously. But what I actually think is going to happen for Connor Norby is not going to be that useful. His exit velocity readings at AAA are pretty blah. And a hitter with that profile, he can make it work if he elevates the ball in the air, if he pulls the ball in the air well, I should say. But is that approach, not hitting very hard but pulling in the air well, going to work for a right-handed hitter at Camden Yards with its very deep left field fence? I am skeptical of that, and I think looking back, we'll come to view this time where Norby is in the mix for the Orioles as him just being a placeholder for either Kobe Mayo or maybe even Jackson Holiday, who's back to playing the field at AAA and also hitting well.
All right, for more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Odyssey app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.